So, number 9, Sean and Matt, please.
Good afternoon.
G'day.
Take the report as read, but just a couple of highlights we wanted to bring out. In terms of the governance side of things, in the last quarter, all statutory requirements of the council were met, and we're continuing to be on track to meet all our levels of service for the year. Just a point around transparency. In the last quarter, 98% of all eligible meetings were live streamed, 85% of all information sessions were open to the public, and 95% of all reports were considered in an open meeting, open to the public. This particular quarter that we're now moving into, which we'll report on next time, we've introduced a change which you'll start to see now in terms of public excluded reports, where we're defining the public interest consideration on reports. So how staff have weighed up the PX considerations against the public interest in the matter. And I'll hand over Sean to have some comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, just on that, we're following the Ombudsman's Open for Business report in late 2023. There was a push for greater consistency and application of the Lagoima to meetings as well. And as you will no doubt know, we're now holding most of the information sessions along those lines, and improving our systems to increase consistency, and things like public interest is a key component of that. On the Lagoima, just a couple of quick notes. We're still experiencing quite high information demands. The numbers keep tracking up. We're still doing quite well in compliance for timeliness, and we continue to do so. We're also mindful too of the impact on the organisation, because it's not just our team that deal with these requests. We rely on staff to provide answers. So we're always mindful to try and balance that to the best of our ability and ensure we're transparent as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
That's it. Rightio. We have 3 questions. Sarah, please, then Tyler.
Thanks. This is quite comprehensive when it comes to the sort of the stats and things behind that governance space. One of the things I'm interested in is the stuff that's less statistical, if you like, the qualitative stuff when it comes to, for example, how we're progressing in things like review of delegations for community boards and the MOU with community boards, those kind of things. Where does that fit in with our governance reporting?
I don't know if that would be covered in this exercise. We might need to get back to you on that. That might be a question for John Phil-Sell.
Yeah, it probably is, but it's like, I'm just trying to work out where things might sit.
That specific projects, John Phil-Sell, but in terms of action trackers, we are going to look at actually how we can track actions better. That was discussed just yesterday about how we can track against actions and maybe go back to having them reported on committee reports or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's
so
probably
we're
quite good.
Doing some looking about how we would do that, and so if we can come back with some advice around.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, Tyler?
Wow, we're not even the highest community board that asked for the most reports. I was really surprised at that. The question I've got is around staff capacity, and I have noticed quite a significant influx of Lagoimas coming in. What does that do to our productivity in council for us to be able to try and figure that out? And are there any ways to be able to alleviate the pressure onto staff to make sure that they do their core service?
It's a good question, and certainly resourcing there's always a tension there, because we've only got so much resourcing, and to make sure requests, which it's everyone's responsibility to answer when they're called upon, to actually do so and not really affect their day-to-day functions. We've seen some pretty big improvements in our systems, but we're also quite keen to talk to the requesters, because quite often a lot of information will be asked for and it's not really what they're after. So we try and sort of work on the quality of information. Like big requests for all correspondence might take days, if not weeks, to put together, whereas if it's a key subset of that, it might be a lot quicker. So we're always trying to improve communication, better systems, and also more proactive reporting, because if there's more information in the public realm, it might satisfy people's needs as well.
It's a great answer. The next one is around the elected member angle, and I alongside my colleagues, would love to improve in the way that we ask and request questions and requests.
Yes.
What are the ways to be able to help you in your job when we're asking for requests to make sure that you're doing what you need to do without us having to go back and forth?
I think just off the top of my head, I think greater clarity. And if there's any sort of, exactly the type of information you're needing, if you can be as specific as possible. If it's for a specific meeting or an event type, be good to know that too, because that can help prioritising things as well. And also too, whether it's being dealt with through other means, like at a community board, because, we do try and network as much as possible, but we don't know what we don't know. So that sort of building that information basis would be useful as well to know about.
Great, thanks so much.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Sean. Go on. Sorry, Pauline. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Sorry, just find the page. Just on the on page 101, with the Lagoima requests and the request for information, so you've put transport and waste together. Is it possible to separate them out, perchance? Because sometimes the waste ones are not even us; they're waste management anyway.
We can, and it's just the way the system is grouped at the moment. It's transport and waste as the unit, so we tend to report at a unit level. We possibly could look at doing something like that. Maybe post-election, we could make some improvements and potentially differentiate some of those key areas.
It's not too onerous. I think it would be helpful.
I don't think it would be difficult. It's just a system change, and we'd just apply that.
Okay, thanks.
Good on you. Just one question, Sean. How many people are in what you call the Lagoima department? And because to a person sitting on the outside, I'll just write a question to council and probably think there's only one coming in a week or something like that. How much effort is there in that?
There's four of us in the official information team. We're all quite busy at the moment. Lots of requests coming in and sort of just overseeing that. We've got some pretty good systems in place now to keep a track of those. When I started in this vocation about 10 years ago, it wasn't great. We were spreadsheet based, quite manual, but now the systems have become a lot better, which has really assisted. And now we're doing from when I started, about 4 times the amount a year that we used to get.
So you've got four full-time people on it, more or less.
Yes, and that includes elected member queries, information sessions, and anything to do with ombudsman and privacy as well. I'm the council's privacy officer as well.
Okay, that's cool. Mel?
But most of the questions would go, so you're having to coordinate not
Yes.
only the answers, that they actually go out to the organisation.
They
and
go
come
out to the
back in and
organisation, yep.
edit them and then send them off. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's a big processing role as well as a...
It's not just someone sitting in the back corner of the office scribbling on a bit of paper. Mel?
With those elected member information requests, are they through OMCE,
That's correct.
not through the community board?
So it's a bit of a split process. So community board questions generally go to the governance teams, and we take care of metro issues or councillor queries.
Yeah, I realise that. I'm just asking where those numbers come from. Are they requests directly to OMCE, the email, or does that include things that go to community board governance teams? Because sometimes I send them to one and sometimes I send them to the other.
We collect them basically from OMCE Info, so to the old office of the chief
Doesn't
executive.
include going to community boards, which explains some of the numbers.
Celeste?
My question was really the same, but is there a way to see that information that goes to the community board in terms of the requests from elected members?
I believe so. We can do it for the next quarter.
I think it would be quite interesting because, like Melanie, I tend to split it.
Yes.
But it's hard to kind of get a gauge for where you're sitting in terms of those
Yes.
numbers.
Yes. No, we can produce
Yeah,
that.
that would be interesting. The other one is, in terms of tracking requests, is there any, I think there might have been discussion of this maybe last time, but in terms of elected member requests, is there any changes in terms of how that's tracked, in terms of us being able to keep track of our requests? Because sometimes the challenge is
We can certainly, if that assists, we can run report snapshots of your requests, for example, and provide those to you, just so you're sort of aware. So more than happy to help out with that if you're...
I think that would be helpful, because I think sometimes what happens is we send requests and then we sort of lose track of them ourselves. So that does create a bit of inefficiency.
Yeah.
And also, I think in the past, sometimes we got sent a list of saying, is this closed off? Are you
Yes.
happy with that? But it was a hard thing to reply to in terms of the format. So
It can be a bit, that's one of the
I
shortcomings
know
of the
it's
system.
no easy
but,
solution to that, but it'd be interesting to...
But we're more than happy to sit down with you as well and show you as well, if
And
that helps.
just, sorry, one more was in terms of the uptick in member requests, because I think you guys are doing an incredible job
Thank you.
with the same number of resources but an increasing number of requests. Do you know what might be some of the trends driving that? Whether it's, say, we've reduced the number of community board meetings, or, you know, other changes to the way that we operate here might be also then requiring us to come through a different process to get that information?
It's quite an environmental sort of factors. Like, it depends. It can be certain issue driven.
Right.
It could be, you know, for example, PC14 was a really good example that really sort of drove numbers up. But naturally, it was a substantive decision, and it was a complex decision. So there was quite a bit of a high need for information on that.
Yeah.
But it depends really on issues specific.
I guess the question coming from that is, when it comes to a substantive issue, maybe we should be looking at another way of sharing that information with elected members, such as going back to some more of those drop-in sessions, which I think are really great
Yes.
for the bigger issues, because otherwise we're all
Okay,
doing
no,
it on our
that's
own.
good feedback.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Kelly. Oh, I'm happy to move it. Kelly's happy to second it, and Kelly's got a question.
Yeah, Sean, in terms of the request to the Office of the CE, do you have a sort of a triage situation whereby if the question might be easily answered by a short conversation with a staff member, would you actually direct someone to do that, or do you take everything that comes to the Office of the CE as a formal request that has to be answered officially and therefore tie up resources?
We'll log it. We'll log the request in the system, but certainly look if there's better ways of doing it for staff. Sometimes if we've got a constituent issue which is quite complex or potentially controversial, sometimes staff might decide it might just give them a phone call, and same for the councillor as well. Just it depends on the issue. But yes, no, always open to different ways of solving an issue easily.
At our community board, they have a very good way of pushing back, pointing us in the right direction, and which seems to save a lot of time for some of us. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Good questions. I'll put that motion. All those in favour, or any debate? No.
Quickly, mate.
Yes. Put that motion. All those in favour? Against? Thank you. That's carried. Thank you. There's three of them. We've got three Zoomers.